What's up guys, here are 10 mobile videography tips and tricks that you can use to get cinematic footage straight from your phone. Let's go. Number 1, lock focus and aperture. Being able to lock the aperture and the focus on your phone is single-handedly the best feature your phone offers you to help you create cinematic footage. There's something about automatic settings that just don't feel cinematic. Being able to press and hold to lock the aperture and focus allows your footage to look much more consistent and professional. I use this feature almost every single time I record any clip. It's just a habit at this point. I just press and hold to make sure everything's locked and none of the settings are going to be changing while I'm filming. This can also be very helpful for panning shots. For example, you could be panning behind a tree or through a window or even behind a pole or a building or something, and without locking that aperture first, your phone is just automatically going to adjust for the darker areas in your footage. Just make sure you're always locking that aperture and focus before you begin filming. Number 2, avoid overexposing your images. The quickest way to make your footage stand out as an amateur and not a professional is to overexpose your footage. One trick that used to help me out a ton was to avoid the sky in my shots. Little things like this up here, where that sky is just bleached out white, might not be that big a deal in a vlog like this, but for trying to capture cinematic footage, that is just not going to look good at all. Unless the subject that you're shooting is in broad daylight, chances are the sky will just turn out white, washed out, and overexposed. Always remember, it's better to be a little bit underexposed than it is to be overexposed, because there's always detail in the shadows, but there's pretty much no way to salvage overexposed footage. You should also be on the lookout for better locations that have more consistent lighting, which brings me to number 3. Okay, number 3, shoot at better times and at better locations. Instead of just going out into your backyard in the middle of the day, try planning your shoot around the location, the time of day, and even the climate. Shooting at sunset or sunrise, or when it's a cloudy day, or even when it's raining, are great opportunities to get much more cinematic footage than if you were to just go out on the street and start filming. Locations, climate, and lighting are everything. And what separates amateurs from professionals, even more than skill level, is the ability to go the extra mile. Most people just aren't willing to go the extra mile to get those iconic shots. It's the creators that wake up 3 hours before sunrise or go on a 5-mile hike to get 3 seconds of footage that are the ones that make it in this industry. And just remember, the more uncomfortable you are while trying to get cinematic footage, the better it's probably going to look in the end. On to the next one. Number 4, embrace slow motion. Even though filming slow motion on your smartphone is almost always less quality than just recording regular video, there's just always a very dynamic look to filming on slow motion, and you usually can capture very stunning results. Just make sure that you don't force your slow motion and that you're using it in times and settings that make sense. For instance, instead of just grabbing a water bottle and trying to capture slow motion water flying out of it, try to find something that showcases water splashing in slow motion organically. Maybe step in a puddle or jump in a pool or something, just some kind of scenario that creates water flying through air naturally. There's so many creative opportunities when filming on slow motion, so make sure you're not sleeping on it. Number 5, editing on a computer. Just because you're filming with your phone doesn't mean you necessarily have to edit the video on your phone as well. I've always found that editing on a computer gives me a much better workflow, and I'm able to complete my videos in a fraction of the time, which brings me to the sponsor of this week's video, Lenovo Yoga. So I've been traveling with the Lenovo Yoga 7i for the past few months now, and it's been a great, reliable computer to edit on. Probably the best thing about this laptop is that it's actually a 2-in-1 laptop and tablet, so you can flip it in half. Personally, I love using the tablet side to edit photos or thumbnail creating. It's just a lot more comfortable and fun that way. Then I switch it back to laptop mode if I'm editing a video or I'm sending some emails. So it's definitely great to have both options in one device. I am currently using the 15-inch version, which has a very large, beautiful display, and it does feature Dolby Atmos speakers for an amazing sound experience as well. Overall, it's a great setup to have, especially if you're an on-the-go creator like myself. If any of you are interested in learning more about the Lenovo Yoga 7i, I'll list everything you guys need to know in the description box below. Make sure you check them out. Huge thank you to Lenovo Yoga for sponsoring this video. But anyway, let's move on to number 6. keep it level. I'm not sure why I chose this location. It's so bright I can hardly see, but this is another one that might not seem like that big of a deal, but it can really ruin your footage if you don't keep it level. It kind of just looks like you're not trying when something is at an angle. And don't get me wrong, angles aren't bad. Sometimes they're very, very good. But if you are an amateur trying to get better, I would say a general rule of thumb is just better to keep your footage level as much as you possibly can. And, oh, almost lost the script. Anyway, if you're a professional and you're 100% confident in what you're doing and you're trying to get creative angles, then yeah, sure, play around with it. But if you're an amateur and you don't know exactly what you're doing yet, just try to keep everything level. Anyway, number 7, slow it down. Here I go again with the super bright lighting and risky tripod angles. I might be the most passionate about this one because I see it all the time. So many cinematic clips or creative transitions are just ruined because the movements are just too fast and forced. Don't get me wrong, I'm a huge fan of fast camera movements. I love fancy edits and quick transitions, but if they're not done correctly and they're forced and they're too quick and jittery, then unfortunately they probably just don't belong in your video. Just treat your camera movements like you would a first date and take it slow. Here's number 8. Number 8, adding sound effects. I can't even begin to describe how important sound design is in your videos. It can really transform your films and bring them to life. I said it in my last video and I'll say it again in this one. Your video only makes up 50% of your film. The other 50% is audio. I firmly believe that the audio playing in your video is just as important, if not more important, than the video itself. I will spend hours upon hours, if not days sometimes, just trying to find the right music that fits my videos. Something as simple as background music or a song can honestly make or break your video. Just to prove how important sound design is for you, I'm gonna play 2 clips, one right after the other, one with no sound effects and one with sound effects, so you can really see how much of a difference it makes. Now, doesn't that just make the world of a difference? It really brings your visuals to life and pulls the viewer into your video and makes them feel like they're actually there. 2 more to go. Here's number 9. Shoot on 4K. This is actually something that I just recently started doing, but to my surprise, it actually looks a lot better. I'm on a dock right now and I just keep sinking every single time the waves go in and out. Just because something says it's 4K doesn't necessarily mean it's better quality. Take GoPro or drone footage, for example. Usually it's a 4K video, but usually it doesn't even look as good as the 1080p coming from my DSLR. But I've been shooting on 4K on my phone for the past few months, and there is just a huge difference in the quality. So if you have 4K on your device, make sure you're utilizing it. Last one, here's number 10, color correction. By the way, if you made it this far in the video and have found any of these tips helpful, make sure to hit that thumbs up button to get this video into the YouTube algorithm so it can help even more people get cinematic footage straight from their phone. Just like sound design, color correction can also completely transform your videos. With the right color correction, you can take a boring, plain Jane shot and turn it into a cinematic masterpiece. Just make sure that you don't overdo your colors, because too much color intensity can actually sometimes be worse than not color correcting at all. Again, if you found any of these helpful, make sure to hit that thumbs up button, subscribe for new videos every week. I'm gonna go get some clam chowder now to warm me up because I'm literally shaking. I'm so cold. So I'll see you guys next week. Peace.